Dear students, today we can see the next part of the flower, that is Androecium. This is the third whorl of the flower. Okay, and Androecium is the male part of the flower and it is composed of stamens. Okay, the Androecium is composed of stamens and stamens represent the male reproductive organ of the flower. This stamen consists of two parts. A long stalk called the filament and an anther. Okay, when we see the parts of the stamen, it consists of two parts. This long stalk is called the filament and this is the anther. Okay, now this anther is bilobed in nature. Okay, it is usually bilobed. Bi means two. So how many lobes are there in the anther? Here you can see two lobes are there. Okay, so anthers are generally bilobed and each lobe consists of two chambers. How many chambers are there in each lobe? Two chambers are there. So two lobes are there. So totally four chambers will be there. Okay, and these chambers develop into the pollen sacs, because inside these lobes, inside this chamber, Microsporangium is present, and that Microsporangium consists of a tissue called sporogenous tissue, and each and every cell of that sporogenous tissue will develop into a pollen grain by meiosis. Okay, so when such pollen grains are developing inside these chambers can be considered as the pollen sacs. Okay, so the pollen sacs will be filled with the pollen grains. Okay, or inside this pollen sacs, the pollen grains will be developing. Okay, now if the stamen is sterile, it is said to be a staminode. What is meant by sterile stamen? Sterile means when they are not able to develop, when they are not able to produce the pollen grains, it is considered to be a sterile. That is opposite to fertile. Okay, so here if the tissues are not well developed inside the anther, then the pollen grains will not be formed, and such stamens, such sterile stamens are called as staminode. And the male flowers, that is flowers with the stamens, are called as staminate flowers, and the sterile stamens are called as staminode. Okay, now these stamens will be attached with the thalamus or with any other whorls of the flower by means of this filament. Okay, what is that thalamus? Thalamus is the tip of the pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. The tip of the pedicel is called the thalamus. So this and the stamens will be attached to the thalamus by means of this filaments, or it can be attached with other whorls of the flower. It can be seen attached to other whorls of the flower also. Okay, so in epipetalus we can see the stamens will be attached to the petals. Okay, so when the stamens are attached to the petals, it is called as epipetalus. Okay, for example, in brinjal we can see epipetalus condition. Okay, that is the stamens will be attached to the petals. Now if you see the lily plant, here the stamens are attached to the perianth. Okay, so what is perianth? In a lily, the calyx and corolla are not clearly differentiated. Calyx is the outer whorl of the flower and corolla is the second whorl, which is the colored part of the flower. So that two are not clearly differentiated in the case of lily, and when calyx and corolla are not differentiated, it is called as perianth. Okay, so when stamens are attached to the perianth, it is called as epiphyllus. Okay, example lily. Now these stamens can be united together. They join with each other and form bundles, or they can be seen free. They remain free in the flower. Okay, without attaching with each other. So if the stamens are free, then we can say it as polyanthrous. Okay, what is polyanthrous? When the stamens are free, they remain free without attaching with each other. I mean without joining with each other. That is said to be as polyanthrous. Okay, when the stamens are free, it is called polyanthrous. And when the stamens are united to form one or more bundles, it is called as adelphous. So when the stamens are united, it is called as adelphous. Okay, And when the stamens are united to form a single bundle, when all the stamens unite to form one bundle, a single bundle, it is called monoadelphous. Mono means what? Single. Okay, so when all the stamens are joined together or united together to form one bundle, it is called the monoadelphous. For example, in China rose, you can see the monoadelphous stamens. Okay, because all will be joining together to form a single bundle. Then when the stamens are united to form two bundles, then it is called as diadelphous. Di here means what? Two. Adelphous means united. Okay, so when all the stamens are united to form two bundles, then we can say it as diadelphous. For example, if you take the pea flower, okay, pea flowers will be having diadelphous. Okay, that means the stamens will be joining to form two bundles. Here actually one stamen will remain alone, and all the other 9, total 10 stamens are there, then 9 other stamens will join together to form another bundle. Thus 2 bundles are formed in pea plants. Okay. Then if you take some other plants like citrus, here polyadelphous condition is seen. That is, more than 2 bundles are there. Poly means many. Poly means many. So adelphous means united to form bundles. Okay. So the stamens will join together to form more than 2 bundles in the case of citrus plant. Okay. In citrus flowers you can see polyadelphous condition. Okay, so this is about the Androecium, and Androecium, I told you, it is formed of stamens, and the stamen is having the filament and the anther, and the length of these filaments will be varying in flower to flower. In all the flowers, they do not have the anther with the same length in their filament. Okay, the filament will be having different length in different flowers like salvia, mustard, etc. Okay, some of these stamens will be smaller, shorter, some will be longer. But if you take the hibiscus, you can see almost all will be having all the stamens will be having the length somewhat similar. But in salvia and mustard, if you see, the length of the filament will be varying. Okay, so this is about the Androecium. Now, next is the Gynecia. Okay, Gynecia is the next whorl of the flower, and it is the female part of the flower. The Gynecia is formed of carpels. Okay, Gynecia is formed of carpels, and it is the female reproductive organ of the flower. And a carpel consists of, when we see the structure of the carpel, it consists of 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? The basal enlarged part is the ovary, and above that is a elongated tube-like structure called the style, and at the tip of that is the stigma. Okay, so these are the 3 parts of the carpel. So what are they? Ovary, style, and the stigma. Ovary is the basal enlarged part of the carpel, and above that is an elongated tube-like structure, that is the style, and at the tip of the style is the stigma. Okay, the stigma is the receptive part for the, or receptive surface for the pollen grain. Okay, so stigma is the part on which the pollen grain will be landing. Okay, so it is the receptive surface for the pollen grains. Okay, now, so this is the ovaries. This can be seen attached to the thalamus. Thalamus, already I told you, the tip of the pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. So here the ovary will be seen. Okay, so the carpel will be seen attached above the thalamus. Okay, now inside this ovary, the ovary will be bearing ovules. So inside this ovary, what will be formed? Ovules will be formed. Okay, so 1 or more ovules will be developing inside this ovary, and these will be attached. The ovules which are developing will be attached to a cushion like structure. Okay, a flattened cushion-like structure called the placenta. So the ovules will be seen attached to the placenta. So what is placenta? Placenta is a cushion-like structure which is seen in the ovary, and to that placenta only the ovules will be seen attached. Okay. Now the ovules can be free or it can be united, just like stamens what we have seen. Here also the not the ovules, the carpels can be seen united or it can be free. Okay, so if the carpels are free, it is said to be as apocarpus. So what is apocarpus? When the carpels are free, it is called as apocarpus, and when the carpels are fused, it is called as syncarpus. Apocarpus condition we can see in the case of lotus, rose, etc. Okay, so the carpels are not united; they remain free without attaching with each other. Then it is apocarpus. If many carpels are there, then they can be fused also, isn't it? So when it is fused, it is said to be as syncarpus. So what is syncarpus? When the carpels are fused, it is said to be as syncarpus. Okay, syncarpus carpels can be seen in mustard, tomato, etc. If you see mustard plant or the tomato plant, in that we can see the carpels will be united or it will be fused with each other, and that condition we say it as a syncarpus. Okay. Then after the fertilization, the ovules will be developing into the seeds and the ovary will be maturing into the fruit. Okay, this is after fertilization. The ovules will develop into the seed and the ovary will mature into the fruit. Okay, so this is about the gynecia.